Hello and welcome back to the Anita Posch Show and the Bitcoin for Fairness series, where everything is about bringing Bitcoin education to the people who need Bitcoin the most. As you might know, I traveled to Zimbabwe in March 2022, and I made some new connections there. And I found a person who is now mining Bitcoin in Zimbabwe. He might be the first ever, or maybe there's someone else, I'm not sure, but we're talking about the ways he got into Bitcoin, why he started to mine Bitcoin, what the challenges, the hurdles were, what he's going to do with the profits, if he has any, and the plans for the future. As always, you can watch this interview on YouTube or listen to it in your favorite podcast player. You can also try something new and use a Lightning-enabled podcast app like the Breeze app, Sphinx Chat, or the Fountain app, and send some Satoshis to me while you're listening to the podcast. A special thank you goes out to the sponsors of this series. This is OKCoin, Leden, Paxful, and the Human Rights Foundation. And of course, I want to thank all of you individual donors who have sent some Satoshis, maybe more, maybe less, to me and the Bitcoin for Fairness initiative in the last weeks and months. And now, enjoy the interview.
Learn Bitcoin will teach you the why and how to use Bitcoin. Anita's book is a concise and approachable introduction to Bitcoin. Lynn Alden, investment strategist. Order your copy now at learnbitcoin.link. That's learnbitcoin.link.
So, hello, anonymous miner from Zimbabwe. We won't disclose your name or the exact location of your mining machines because of the hostility of the current Zimbabwean government. Can you please tell our listeners why would it be dangerous for you if they were to know your identity or location? What's going on in Zimbabwe?
Well, I think hi Anita, and thank you for the introduction and stuff. I I think the prospect of the unknown is basically what keeps us, being anonymous, keeping our identities private, keeping our location private, because we just don't know. It's Zimbabwe. The government tends to make rules, tends to make up stuff as they go along. So we don't really know if we're on the right side of the law or not on the right side of the law. It's pretty much a gray area. So rather to be on the safe side and just keep things to yourself, I think is the most logical thing that you can do.
Yeah, I again heard from opposition party members who have been going missing or are even dead now. Um, and even if you say something on social media, they put you in prison, they put journalists in jail, and they said they want to keep Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies offshore. I don't know how they want to do it, but as you said, I guess it's better to be a little more cautious than, be in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Zimbabweans have a long history of being solution orientative, innovative in a quiet manner because of the environment we've grown up in. And those are one of the strongest benchmarks and the points, that we've tend to hone in on those skills. So this is another one of them, being, private about what we're doing, focusing on our solutions in private. So this is just another thing. The difference, I think, this time with Bitcoin and in particular Bitcoin mining is that, like everything else, it consumes energy, it consumes data. But the only difference in this circumstance is it generates something of value, something that's finite, something that allows you to extract a value, that allows you to hedge against, inflation, that allows you to hedge against many things that the economy doesn't. So I think in a lot of respects, it's designed for Zimbabwe.
Mhm. You're living in the diaspora, as millions of Zimbabweans do. Why is that?
Well, for me, it was a choice. I wanted to expand my horizons. My family is predominantly, historically, from abroad. Essentially, they used to come and, live in Zimbabwe a couple of years, then travel abroad, then occasionally one generation would come back. So I think I'm kind of part of that trend. We've been doing it for so long now. you know, potentially I could also end up back for a little while and then basically go back out again. But I think the lack of opportunities is definitely a significant part of that journey. And I think a lot of Zimbabweans would agree with that. It is a significant part of that lack of opportunities. And if you do develop an opportunity, you just don't know how long it would last for because things change, you know, rules change or rules don't change, but people change their minds. So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest factors.
Have you lived through the first or one of the several hyperinflationary phases in Zimbabwe, like when in 2007 or 8, I think it was, when we had these 1 trillion Zimbabwean dollar notes?
Yes, yes. I've actually got still a few of those notes in a photo frame somewhere. I actually kept them because I used to collect quite a lot of them. One of my fondest memories was when the notes came out. I don't know which note it was. Maybe it was the billion note. It actually had platinum in the middle, like a line of platinum. And the platinum was actually more valuable than the note itself. So people started burning these notes to take the platinum out. So literally within, like, I think it was a week or two, the country ran out of notes because everyone was burning it. And then, as you can imagine, the supply of money was highly restricted, and then they had to print more money, so created more inflation, etc. So that's one of my clearest memories, is the fact you could see the money in the bank, but you couldn't take it out. And I think those days we didn't have eco cash yet. So, and then if you did go to the shop, you'd see someone with a wheelbarrow full of money just to buy bread and milk. So, pretty crazy. You can just put it in your pocket and just go into the shop.
Mhm. And how did you manage to live through this phase? Did you have access to US dollars?
I can't clearly recall, but I was pretty much just fresh out of school. My parents, I know, were pretty much, had a lot of side hustles, etc. But essentially, we were using the local currency. I know that those days there was a combination of, my parents working in Botswana, would come home weekends. So I'm assuming there was access to some kind of foreign currency because it was impossible to keep pace with the cost of living based on what was happening to the dollar at that time. But it was essentially crazy. One week, bread would be $1. Next week, it would be $2.50. Electric at one point, I think, was hovering on the 16 cents a kilowatt margin. And if you look at what's going on now, a lot of people essentially tend to, if they have access to foreign currency or USD, they tend to use the parallel rate in terms of buying local currency to pay their utilities because it works out actually cheaper and it gives them a better value and advantage and leverage.
You mean with the parallel rate, you mean the rate on the street, right?
Yes, yes, the
Yes,
rate on the
yes,
street.
yes.
Yeah, sorry, I'm totally out of that street talk. I tend to use whatever I see in the media. If someone says parallel, you're kind of like, yeah, that's the one I should go for.
But that's so confusing when you're there the first time, I mean, I've been in Zimbabwe now 2 times, quite a time, and I heard and talked a lot about, asked a lot of questions about how money works there, RTGS, EcoCash, uh, cashing out, getting money in, and it's changing permanently. And you have to know so much alone about how money works. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah.
So when did you find out about Bitcoin the first time?
My Bitcoin journey started, was about 2007, really, when it first came out. And
Oh,
at that time,
that can't really be because it was in 2009.
was it
So in
2009?
2008, the white paper was published, and in January
Mm-hmm.
2009, the first Bitcoin block was
Yeah,
mined. Yeah, but
yeah, yeah. The the reason I reference that date is, at the time I was working for a financial institution, and there was a lot of talk about all these digital currencies in Africa, etc. And when I started doing some research, and to your point, 2008, 2009, and when it first initially came out, we're doing some experimental work with with currencies and how to pay people. And then Bitcoin came into the picture. And I remember a couple of guys saying, "Hey, we should really mine this stuff. I've got a couple already. There's my computer." And I wasn't interested in it. I was kind of like, yeah, well, if anyone can turn on a computer, why would I bother mining this stuff, right? If anyone can just get it. And I'm going to need to get a lot of those just to buy, a pizza, right? The story about the pizza. But then anyway, peer pressure, age, etc. I started doing it, just mining it for the sake of conversation. Who got the most Bitcoin this weekend, mining, etc. And it helped because essentially we had access to a lot of computers. And we mined quite a few of it.
So
When some
you did that privately or in the bank?
a bit of both, a bit of both. You get these high powered computers from work, right? And I won't mention the company's name, just in case they remember me. But yeah, I remember I had about gee whiz, I must have had yeah, about six of them at home. And at that time I was staying in London, right? And and luckily after all that mining, I held on to it. I actually forgot about it up until I started seeing it in the news going up in value. And the odd thing about it is, right, when it started going up in value and I saw the price, I think I sold it when it was about 5,000 a Bitcoin. And I actually, put a deposit on my first house in London at the time. I was so happy with myself. And at the same time, I was kicking myself because I thought if I had just left that computer on, that's what I was thinking. Miner's regret, I think is what they call it. So I should have just left it on and just said like, oh, I would have paid off my house pretty sharpishly, because there weren't a lot of miners those days.
I can imagine, yeah. I mean, every Bitcoiner has some sort of regret, I think. But I mean, on the other hand, you at least managed to hold it until it was at 5,000 because other people lost it before or something like that. And I think it was very difficult back in the days. So without like having knowledge about programming and computers and Linux and whatever, you couldn't do it actually. So, but it's great that you held on to it for so long. But then, I mean, did you stop mining then for a while, or?
I At the height that it became, valuable in monetary terms, I got interested again.
Hmm.
Totally different use case. The use case when you tend to, divorce yourself from what's going on in Zimbabwe is, there's a gain. I can pay off this, I can do that. So the use case in my 20s was much more different. So essentially those days I kept mining it for a little bit longer. And then I started traveling quite a bit, so it was a bit difficult to mine it on the go, on off. But I essentially did keep doing it to a very lesser degree. I didn't have access to 6 laptops or 6 computers, so it was significantly lower. I did hold on to quite a bit of it, just purely out of speculation. Because of what was going on in the space, I thought, this could be valuable one day, and I wasn't wrong. I wasn't wrong. Fast forward to now, I certainly have a much deeper interest in it, and I think the use cases have expanded significantly, depending on your perspective, depending on your location, depending what you're trying to do. The use cases are infinite, really.
What would you say are the most pressing use cases now for you as a Zimbabwean in the diaspora, and from the perspective of Zimbabweans who are still in the country?
Well, I think if you in the diaspora, I think, primarily in my mind, simplistically put, if you're, and just to give you some background before I kind of go into what I think the first use case is, I think, Zimbabweans send over 2 billion US dollars home a year to support their relatives. I can't remember the percentage it represents in terms of the Zimbabwean economy, but I think it's hovering 20 to 30%. So if you hold that number up there for a second and you think to yourself, That's a lot of money, right? Essentially, you could take, the person earning $1 a day on the street selling something on a street corner, and if you buy the cheapest entry level Bitcoin miner, say an S9, and Zimbabweans, predominantly the ones that are sending money home, their relatives have a solar system, they have internet. So if you take the cheapest S9 and you were to plug it in, suddenly you've got a consistent income stream. Pays you on time every day at 1 a.m. in the morning. It mines throughout the day. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to stand on a corner. And if you're to take that same £500 or $700 that you paid for that miner, even if it's giving you $1 a day, that's still higher than the interest rate in a bank would give you per day. So if you're looking at that from a diaspora point of view and you think, if I can multiply that and get 10 miners in, possibly I don't have to send my relative, that money at the end of the month. I make this one-off investment. The machine lasts 4 years. I service it. Suddenly you've got a significant use case for it. That's from the diaspora point of view. That's how I'm thinking. From, a local perspective, you're thinking, okay, I'm earning an income in Zimbabwe. I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, I'm a banker, whatever the case may be. The price of things goes up. Suddenly, you're priced out of everything you're accustomed to, your lifestyle, your choices, your school fees, etc. But you buy into it. It's a bit volatile right now, but historical data points suggest that it's going to go up much more than it is now. Just yesterday, it bounced back 15%, 15.79%. So, that's significant. That's a hedge. The local economy can't compete against that kind of increase. If that was the GDP 15.79%, they'd be singing from the rooftops.
Okay, but what do you say to the people who say, yeah, but now it lost like 50, 60% in the last weeks? How is this a hedge against inflation?
If you're a miner and you're generating free energy, you still have your space in your property, your machine is still working, I say keep mining. Because a lot of those miners are going to, a lot of the miners based in countries where they have expensive energy, or, they just don't have the motivation to keep mining because they have a different perspective. I would say keep mining. It's going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
Have some faith. You just know it's going to go up.
And from the perspective of a nurse, for instance, who he's maybe earning like 200 US dollars in the Zimbabwean dollar a month. I mean, if she starts saving Bitcoin, like a little bit of in Satoshis in the Lightning Network, like, I don't know, 10 US dollars in Bitcoin. Now she only has left 4 US dollars or 5. What do you say to her?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. For me, the whole Bitcoin mining currently has been a significant learning curve from where I was in my 20s to where I am. So, 20 years has passed. I would say if you're a miner, or you this nurse particularly, I would say put it in a trusted platform. I tend to mine directly to Ledden, right? So I know that I'm mining. I'm getting, one Bitcoin's one Bitcoin, right? I'm mining directly to Ledden. On that same day, I start earning interest. So I'm not really worried about the volatility. I'm thinking about, the long-term gains. I'm mining, KYC free. I'm putting it in Ledden. I'm getting interest. So for me, I've looked at the entire ecosystem, and I think it's a value ecosystem, right? That's one play you can make. The second play is you can buy Sun Exchange solar cells. You can get a Bitcoin income stream. I'm thinking of all these things working together. And if you're just holding because you want to hedge against inflation, you want to hedge against local volatility, it's a different play. The thing about Bitcoin is, everyone has a different story. One size doesn't fit all. And I think that's the challenge. You can spin a good picture, you can spin a bad picture, you can spin any picture. But regardless of which picture you spin, you most likely will be right depending on your perspective. From my perspective, I'm right. I'm mining, I'm using sustainable energy. It's KYC free. It goes directly into a platform like Ledin. I earn interest. At the end of the week, if Bitcoin goes up 15% and Ledin gives me 5.20%, I'm a winner, regardless of what's going on in the market. And I hold it for the long term, etc., etc.
You when you're putting it into Latin, you're basically decoupling it from the volatility of Bitcoin, right? I mean,
Absolutely,
you
absolutely.
also lose the chance to have this big way up, yeah, like a day 20% up or something. But for you, that's how you wanna keep your money working, you know. But
Yeah, yeah. Keep your money working
yeah,
hard.
your question, one question also. You say it sounds like an advantage when you say I'm mining KYC free Bitcoin, but then you put it into Latin, which is with KYC.
Correct,
So
correct.
do you split that? Like, do you take half of the Bitcoin you mine and put it in a hardware wallet, in your hardware wallet with your keys, and the rest to Ledin? Or do you want to talk about that? How you're doing that?
Yeah, so I put half in Ledin and I put half in KYC free. So I don't know if this is public knowledge or not, but a lot of the platforms that I've used, like mining pools, I noticed there is a warning about, if you're mining in Zimbabwe or you're a Zimbabwean mining, you shouldn't use this platform, and if you find out, we'll kick you off the platform. Now, there's a lot of that out there. I haven't used every single mining pool, but there's a significant amount of them. F2 pool is a simple example. I think it's in relation to maybe a US company and that the sanctions against Zimbabwe. So, there's a few things you got to be, aware of when you're mining Bitcoin locally. You can't use certain platforms because not all of them are friendly.
Which one do you use, if I may ask?
I use a couple.
Okay.
I use Slush Pool.
Mm-hmm.
I use F2 Pool.
Mm-hmm.
I use NiceHash. Yeah, pretty much. I've used about six or seven.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you hide your IP address from the miners?
Yes, I do. I
So
use a very, I use a VPN.
yes, so you're basically, so there's this Bitcoin mining map from Cambridge, you know that one.
Hmm.
So basically that's not correct, right? Because
No,
everybody
it's not.
is, yeah, okay. So
Hmm. Hmm.
you might have some sort of, oh yeah, in this country there is maybe Bitcoin mining, but because I just was looking at the map again, and I've been looking at it in recent years, and I already saw Bitcoin miners in Zimbabwe, but I always thought that can't be true. I don't believe that, you know. But
Yeah.
since you are really mining now, with your S9s, and I've seen the pictures, I've seen the video, and but I thought, yeah, you won't be on that map because you don't want to get located. You want to stay private.
Hmm. Hmm. I think, just talking about the Bitcoin mining, just to give you a little background how it started. So, there was a lot of guys on Twitter talking about, Bitcoin in Zimbabwe, Bitcoin mining, etc. And, there were a couple of guys that stood out. I won't mention their names in case they don't want me to talk about them. But essentially, we're four guys. We started talking about Bitcoin mining, and there was a lot of doubt about, is this possible? There's so many power outages, internet outages, mining pools don't accept, Zimbabweans mining Bitcoin, etc., for sanction reasons, etc. So I said, well, why don't we put it to the test? I've got a location, I use sustainable energy at my location. So that's how it started. And, these guys were kind enough to just say, look, energy's gone up so much in Europe. Let's just send our miners, no cost whatsoever. Let's just send them. Let's test them out. Let's see what happens. So we sent them. We had some hurdles, some power, what they call load issues. So essentially, depending on the size of the inverter, it doesn't give you essentially enough load. So we upgraded. So now we've perfected it to the point of we know what works in terms of electrical setup, Bitcoin mining, connecting to the network, VPNs. We have the blueprint. But now what do we do with that blueprint is the challenge. We know it works. So as you know, we've been speaking to Blockstream, and yeah, Blockstream have commit. Yeah, you know what they essentially said to us is, we like the story, we like what you're doing, and we want to take it a step further. We want to show it's possible to mine Bitcoin using the Blockstream satellite. I think that's the number one thing. There's coverage in Zimbabwe, so let's do it. So I'm psyched about it, because one of the challenges we have is that, you know, the internet is probably, it's great for about 90% of the time, but you get that 10% where it just goes down, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Zimbabwe and the internet is the worst internet connection I ever had anywhere in the world.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So, you know, it's exciting that Blockstream wants to do it, because I think that's the cherry on the cake, right? If you put that in, we've solutioned everything else, and they can solution that bit. We can just basically confirm the block, add to the block via, you know, the Blockstream satellite. So that's exciting. I was actually thinking about this the other day, and I was like, wow, essentially what they're doing here, or the capability they'll give us, is equivalent to what they're doing with Tesla Power Packs Block and Blockstream. That's the partnership. Essentially, you know, we're doing it on such a small scale, but in principle, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're experimenting with it. How can it work in Zimbabwe? How can it work in a location where there are so many obstacles and hurdles? It's like I always say, if Bitcoin works in Zimbabwe, it works everywhere, because you have to solve so many problems that you then can take this as a blueprint and use it anywhere else too. And so that's why I'm also so excited about this experiment, basically, and that Blockstream came in and said, "Hey, we would like to give you a Blockstream satellite kit." And I talked to the guys, and they might even come and help you set it up, which is great.
Oh, that'll be amazing.
Yeah, and I think we're working on that, and in the
Hmm.
future there will then be an update, of course, how things have been going. And so, can you tell us a little bit? You have an existing solar power operation in that place in Zimbabwe. And do you also have batteries, or are you only using daylight electricity? How does this work? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so essentially, we started off with a 3 kV system, which is quite small, you know, 3 kilowatt system, and we realized that it wouldn't be sufficient to power all 6 miners. So we upgraded it to a 10 kilowatt system, and we then coupled that with a couple of batteries, 3 times 200 amp hour batteries, 48 volts, 16 289 watt panels on the roof. So it's significant. You know, when the sun goes down, the batteries kick in, and they power those miners through the evening. So from a technical perspective, I think that was easy to solve. The energy part was easy to solve. Is, you know, it all comes down to resources. If you can afford it, you buy it, you put it in place. I think the biggest challenge is definitely the internet. That just, you know, like I said, 90% of the time it's working. That 10% that it goes down is literally where you get the notification, hey, your internet's gone down. Then you need to restart all the miners, you know, because it's just not automatic when the internet comes on. So I think that's been the biggest stumbling block. But other than that, I think it's been fascinating from a technical builder perspective, because you don't know a lot of the things. You know, you've got to change your electrical system in the house. Your plug sockets have to be a specific voltage rating. You can only plug in so many miners into one plug socket. I think there's the 80, they call it the 80% rule. And funny enough, along the journey, I met somebody who is actually a very established Bitcoin miner in Africa. You know, he has over 100 rigs. He's very, very established. He's been sort of in the background mentoring me, saying, do this, do that. So that's been very, very useful. The difference with us and him, he's 100% grid because they have really cheap electric and he's part of the world. We're obviously 100% sustainable. That's the difference. But it's fascinating. So we share a lot of data. We share a lot of technical know-how. When I have a problem, I reach out to him and vice versa. So it's been a really good journey.
So as far as I know, with the Blockstream satellites, you would be independent in receiving new blocks from the Bitcoin blockchain. So you don't need
Correct.
download something over the Zimbabwean internet, let's say it so, like
No?
providers. But still you need to upload it because as far as I know, it's just a one way, it's not bidirectional yet, the satellite.
Hmm.
But for uploading the blocks you find, you only need you don't need a strong internet connection. I think you upload only a small packet of data, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you solve that? Could you solve that with a satellite phone or something like that?
So what I've done to kind of future proof against that, Starlink satellite from SpaceX is coming to Africa next year, March. So we've pre-ordered that for March next year. So that's already in the pipeline. When that arrives, I'm super psyched.
Really?
400
Sure.
megabits a second. Yeah.
I didn't know that. And how expensive will it be?
It's $99 a month. It's actually cheaper than my current internet subscription.
Yeah.
So it's
Wow.
way cheaper.
Huge. I didn't know that it's coming next March, but that's a huge
Yeah, next.
news for everyone. I mean, wow.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited to stream a Netflix movie as well from there.
Okay, what did you do to make it future-proof? You pre-ordered a Starlink connection.
Yeah, yeah. So, as you bump into these hurdles or these challenges, you start thinking, what next, right? You can just give up and, go home, but what's next? You get internet issues, you think, okay, Starlink's coming, let me pre-order. Yes, it's far away. We've got Blockstream that's, very kindly offered their support. So that's a solution. Starlink's a solution. Then there's the battery storage aspect. What can we do better? And I've been talking to a couple of guys here in Europe, and I've just visited a couple of car manufacturers, or not car manufacturers, but like scrapyard salvaging of old electric vehicles. And particularly in Holland, the reason being I went there is I watched a fully charged show video where they showed how they were repurposing old electric car batteries, making them into massive Powerwalls. And if you know how expensive batteries are, you buy a 10 kilowatt Tesla Powerwall for 10K. It's only 10 kilowatt, right? You're paying 10,000. So if you buy an old Nissan Leaf, that's 30 kilowatt for 3,000.
Wow.
And all you do is you just put I think they call it a BMS system, which allows you to manage and control that battery. So you're getting 3 times the impact or 3 times the storage capacity. And you move that to Africa, that's priceless. You're getting 3 times the energy capacity to store that for 3,000 as opposed to 10,000 for 10K. So I've been looking at those solutions. I'm quite close to purchasing a vehicle as well, or should I say a vehicle battery.
Yeah.
But it's easier to just send the car and then take the battery out later.
Cool. That's so
Mm.
interesting. You're so innovative in your ideas. You're getting all these new opportunities and using it immediately for your future plans. I find that really awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and when it's fully up and running with the Blockstream and the Starlink, and we've got the car battery, plonked against the wall, it'll be good, to do a really, up close and personal, podcast on it, and you can visit and see. That'll be amazing.
So, can you tell us maybe how much profit do you make at the moment? How many blocks are you finding?
I haven't really looked at profits, to be honest, because for me it's about really looking at Bitcoin for its true value. Its true value is it's a finite resource, right? It's a finite digital asset. So I haven't really looked into that because essentially we've got the miners all for free. These guys have been very generous. We're all interested in the data. Is the data telling us that it's possible to mine Bitcoin in Zimbabwe, in Africa? The answer is yes. Can we build out a solution? The answer is yes. Can we do it long term? The answer is yes. We just have to put all these individual components together. So currently, the ROI is not a concern. But if you want a money number, I think just yesterday, at the current Bitcoin price, it was $7.72 yesterday. So yeah, that comes in daily automatically, no issues at all. So, that's fascinating. If we had the consistent internet, probably be much higher, much, much higher. But at the moment, it currently varies significantly. Bitcoin drops, it looks less. Internet drops, it's less. So we have those two challenges. But for me, it's about, mining a finite resource. You hold it for the future. You've seen the predictions. You know what I'm talking about. So that's the game plan. If we can share that knowledge with people in the diaspora that want to do it for other use cases, then we're happy to help them too.
Yeah, great. That would have been my next question. How can people get in contact with you? Because I think the people who are going to listen to that will have a lot of questions, because there will be also a lot of Zimbabweans listening to this.
Yes,
And
yes,
so,
yes.
how are we going forward to that in that way? How can they contact you?
I'm actually on Twitter, so I'll give you my Twitter handle. So, they're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'm also in the Zimbo Bitcoin community group. I'm not actively participating, but if they post a question there, just yesterday posted a question about, Bitcoin mining is not possible on laptops and stuff. So I just corrected somebody on that because I know it's possible. So, I participate where I can add value. And, if we if we could get more people mining Bitcoin in Zimbabwe, that would be fantastic. In Africa in general, fantastic, because you become a swarm of bees that's unstoppable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the point. I don't want to be centralized and it's easy for a guy to come and lock up shop. Decentralized is the point here. And if everyone's doing it, it's fantastic.
Absolutely, very cool.
Mhm.
So, can you tell us your handle, please? Your Twitter name.
It is at Unstoppable BS.
Perfect. That's great. Okay, that's the Twitter handle where people can reach you. You can also help them get into our Zimbabwean WhatsApp group to ask questions there. And I think it's great that you're in there, because then I know, yes, somebody competent is answering questions. because,
Yes,
because
yes,
sometimes
yes,
people are putting in links to mining opportunities where I think these are scams. But I guess you will know
yes.
then. Yeah. Super
Yeah.
cool.
You know, yeah. Oh, sorry, please, Karen.
Yeah. You wanted to add something, please.
Yeah, so I think, from experience and just, for everyone listening to this, 4 months ago, I wasn't into, Bitcoin mining in terms of knowing what an ASIC miner is, not knowing what a mining pool is, not knowing how to configure it, how the payout works, what wallets to use with it. And 4 months later, I can comfortably say I know how all of this comes together and how it works. I've had to educate myself on the electrical aspect, on the sustainable energy generation aspect, choosing inverters. So a lot of that has come through actually doing it.
Hmm.
And I think that's the key message I want to tell people out there. If you feel you're out of your comfort zone, that is a good feeling, because only good things come after that.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much for that. That's it. Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to my podcast at anita.link/news and recommend it to your friends. A special thank you goes out to the Human Rights Foundation, OKCoin, Leden, and Paxful, and all individual donors who are supporting the work of Bitcoin for Fairness. Thank you very much, and see you soon at the Anita Posch Show.